Hello and welcome to the EV Cafe podcast. Yet another podcast about the zero emission future that we all hope for. And this week and every week I'm joined by one of the wonderful EV Cafe team. And today I've got the lovely and wonderful Sarah Sloman. Sass, how you doing?
Hello. Yeah, usually you're joined by one of the wonderful team members, and today you have Sarah Sloman. Hi, everyone. No, not at all. I love this. Thank you for having me on. I'm very excited for today.
Yeah, it's an exciting one and an unusual one. We always talk to pioneers, collaborators and innovators in the industry. And again, this is no exception. We've got Dan from Bright.Green, and they are doing some really cool stuff, which we're going to explore. But first of all, really to get us started, I want us to have a quick look at the video. So let's go with Joe and roll VT.
Systems like this are going to make it better for everyone.
We are here at the Bright.Green launch of their contactless kiosk for EV charging. This is a very exciting day. This is the first time we've seen one of these in the wild.
So the government now have legislated saying that we need contactless payment, we need to make sure that the systems are reliable and we've got good uptime, and the whole system needs to be easier to use and better for the end consumer.
Okay, so the three things that we're solving are legislation compliance, customer experience, and also making the whole ecosystem more profitable.
So who's the product great for?
Car park owners, hotel chains, charge point installers, airports, hospitals, museums, cinemas, leisure centres.
Systems like this are going to make it better for everyone. It's also going to make it better for end users because everybody wants a nice, easy to use solution. And this is all about making stuff easy to use.
The EV market is growing massively. At the same time, it needs help. So there's a lot of things that can be improved. Right now, the focus is on installing as many chargers as possible, and why we exist is to make the customer experience amazing and fun. We hope that we can help the market grow faster and better.
Our role here today as Paythru is to provide the integrated payments experience for Bright.Blue and Bright.Green's all-in-one solutions.
This is what happens when a software company makes hardware. They have gone beyond compliance. This is about making a great consumer experience. Bus stations, plane stations, co-working spaces, offices, local councils, health centres, and of course, the whole point is it makes the experience better for the drivers.
Fantastic. Well, it's really good to have you on board. Dan, tell us a little bit about how Bright.Green came about.
Well, there's a long story. How long have you got?
Well, we probably need to cut off at about an hour, but if we can get it under that.
But no, hit us with it. Go for it. I want to hear.
The short version, okay. We are two companies, Bright.Blue and Bright.Green, and our Bright.Blue division of the company is in unattended retail, and we came from one of the largest remanufacturers of vending machines in the UK. And what we saw was there is a bit of an antiquated industry in the vending industry. And we wanted to make it smart. So we have a lot of mad geniuses, as we like to call them, that work with us. And they saw this kind of hole in the market where you've got all of these, what we call a non-clever machine sat in the corner of a room somewhere. Nobody knows what's going on with it. Is it working? Is it not working? What's been sold through it? So they saw this hole in the market and then decided to make all of the machines smart. So they started off making old machines smart with what we call our I/O box. This is the brain of the machine. It's all built in-house. It's all our own software. We have mechanical engineers, electronics engineers, software engineers. It's a whole little team. We've all known each other for a long, long time, and we like just building cool stuff, really. And then from then, we started putting big, fancy screens on everything because we thought, why not? If you're going to go digital, let's put big screens on. So now we build huge luxury vending machines and unattended retail machines for brand activations, for just for normal places. But we do advertising. And that's where we kind of differentiate ourselves from a few of the other companies doing this, because we have an advertising department who actually go out there, source the brand deals, make the advertising, and then push it to the screens. We then share all revenues with our customers. So it's really a passive income. So you had machines in, say, a shopping mall that really weren't high value, because you go to a shopping mall and there's a nice Starbucks to buy your coffee and there's a shop, to buy your Mars bars. You're probably not going to a vending machine. So people were starting to take those out. But what we're saying is now is use your use the machine you have there already. So we're trying to be sustainable. We upgrade it, make it into this beautiful looking new machine with a big screen, and you can advertise on that screen. And now a lot of our clients actually make more money from the advertising than they ever did through the selling of a Mars bar or a can of Coke. So we were doing this for a couple of years, and then 2 years ago we got bought out by a private equity fund from America, and the main founder is Jason Bright and his partner Alex. So that's why we are Bright.Blue and now Bright.Green. So it's because he owned all the domains that ended in Bright. So we had a good choice of ones we can use. And if we open new companies up, we have lots more choices as well to keep it within the family. And then about 12 months ago, 16 months ago, I actually joined the company. So I've known Jiri, our founder and CEO, for many years now. We both worked on cruise ships for quite a while, where we were upgrading all the tech on board old cruise ships to bring them into the 21st century, which was great. And that's how we met. And he managed to pull me away from the seas and to come here to Milton Keynes, where we have our research and development centre. And it's been great fun. And when I came across, we were talking to one of our payment providers, and they said there's a need in the EV industry because there's new legislation coming out. There's a fear in Europe and obviously the UK legislation stating that you're going to have to put contactless payment on all of your charges. Obviously DC, that's not too bad. A lot of the DC charges have contactless payment, but you see the AC is very difficult. If you've got 20 AC charges in a charge point, and you have to put a single payment device that could be £400-500 on each one, you've got all the installation costs, and it just becomes very expensive. And a lot of the people in the industry, the CPOs and the manufacturers, they've got the land, they've got the deals and everything. They've built their business cases around 10-15 years of having that site and being able to sell electricity. And what happened was that obviously this new legislation comes in, and all of a sudden there's an additional cost. Now that makes it very difficult, I say, for the CPOs, and then it's not a great experience for the customer. So we actually looked at some of the solutions we had already, and we had an outdoor kiosk that we had connected to bollards that were actually in a caravan park, because we were doing metered power on a caravan park. And it actually turned out it's a very similar solution that you need to build what basically is a CPMS system. So we took that, and our mad geniuses, as we like to call them, they did all the OCPI and the OCPP integration, which they did built all in-house, because obviously that's the great thing, as I'm sure you're aware and all the listeners are aware, that having the open protocols makes it so easy because everyone has to use the same protocols. We built the OCPI, and then we created a kiosk that you can actually just install one kiosk into a group of chargers, and that will then connect over OCPI or OCPP to the chargers, and you have a single point of sale. You go up to it, you can select your charger, and that can be 4 chargers, can be 100 chargers. There's no limit to how many you can put on there. And then you can just choose your charge point, swipe your card, and then get your electricity. It's a really simple system. We have it all set up here at our office in Milton Keynes, where, of course, all the listeners are welcome to come and give it a go. And you'll find that it's a really simple and easy to use system. It's like a petrol station. You can turn up at a petrol station, you put your card in the machine, you get your fuel. And it should be as easy as that. It should be very simple. You don't have to have an app. You don't have to be any part of any group, which is part of the legislation, of course. And it just makes it a nice customer experience. Now, what we thought from that is, well, actually, we do the advertising and we do all things like customer acquisition, we do customer subscription, we do data and analytics in our vending. Why don't we bring that same model into the EV side? Because as silly as it might sound, selling a single product like a Mars bar or a snack through a vending machine is actually very similar to being only able to sell electricity through your EV site. So what we were trying to do is bring additional revenues, a better customer experience, so everybody wins. So it's a better experience for the customer, it's a better experience for the CPO, and then everybody wins, and then the whole ecosystem can grow. And that's what it needs to do to make sure that EV is suitable and accessible for everybody. We need more chargers, we need more sites, it needs to be more accessible, it needs to be easier. So that's in a short nutshell how we came to today.
Fantastic. That has been a really good insight for people, and for me, quite honestly. Is great to see the motivation, how that grew into this business from Bright.Blue to Bright.Green, and the common sense about creating a hub that connects all of these charge points and then brings people to one place where they can pay and go, much like parking your car, I suppose, very, in a very simple way. Dan, so this podcast is slightly different because obviously one of your key partners in this whole venture, as those of you that were able to watch the video at the beginning of this this podcast, and if you haven't been able to watch the video, then you can watch a video in the link in this podcast with the notes of this podcast, can see this very hub in action. But the important star of that particular video is, of course, our lovely very own Sarah Ann Sloman. Saz, you guys partner together, don't you, Dan, with Bright.Green and Paythru. Sarah, tell us how you got involved in this, if you would, and then obviously we can kind of begin to square that circle or the triangle or whatever.
Whichever
one word
shape.
of warning. I don't know. Anyway, yeah. Any other shapes are available, but one little word of warning. There was a number of acronyms.
Oh, acronym police.
AFIR.
Acronym police.
Yeah, AFIR, CPO, CPMS, OCCP, which. And we have a very educated audience, Dan, I have, but not everybody knows all of the acronyms, and I don't actually know the AFIR one. I know it's to do with the regulations and it's the charge points and stuff. So over to you guys to enlighten me.
Okay, so I think that one was the out of home or away from home advertising, actually, not about the policy and regulations, I believe. Oh. And then OCPP and OCPI are the sort of integration communication protocols. And what was the other one? CPO, charge point operator, and CPMS, which was charge point management system. So they're not, as you say, we do have an educated audience, but what I love about the EV Cafe is this is about going beyond the usual EV people and appealing to those who may have real estate or may have a car park and who may be interested in how they can earn more from advertising than selling Mars bars. I think we should be paying Mars bars some kind of credit. We constantly refer to them. Right? No, but thank you for taking such an interest, Paul. This is why I do so enjoy doing these sessions with you. And this is exactly this. Bright.Green, I believe, to be a very visionary partner. Of course, they are designing and building in-house these amazing contactless terminals, but they're not just for EV charging, they're also for parking as well. And so we know that drivers of the future want to just have one very simple transaction, one very seamless experience. And this whole Paythru relationship, we had Keith Brown on talking about what Paythru does, but for me, as strategy, it's about getting alongside other visionary partners, making that whole user journey better for everyone. And Paythru strategy is completely unapologetic. We are aligning ourselves to be the payment service enabling EV charging and parking globally. And of course, Bright.Green have also got similar ambitions. So part of the process of choosing good partners is, do you have that strategic alignment? Absolutely, yes. And of course, we started here in the UK supporting charge point operators and other car park companies, but now we are looking at Europe and North America in the coming years as well. And so with Bright.Green's expertise and their equipment, and if you do watch the video, I remember saying, thanks for calling me a star, by the way. I think it's just the one I was the only one with the microphone. So that helps. And I said that this is what happens when software companies make hardware. They understand that user experience, that user interface, that ability to improve a system to increase profitability. And on that video, Jiri, who we've been speaking about here, the sort of founder, says he does three things. Bright.Green answers three major problems in the market. 1, legislative compliance. 2, improving the customer experience. And 3, making that parking and EV charging ecosystem not just more enjoyable to use, but critically more profitable for the people who own and run it on a day-to-day basis. Something I know that Dan will explain all about is we're seeing so much learning being from other sectors, retail being one of them. We've watched supermarkets jump very early in offering EV charging to encourage dwell time in their car park. Then they switched to making that EV charging a paid for experience, and they still saw the same dwell time in those car parks. So they're simultaneously improving the spend in store and outside of the store. Then they introduced these big screens like Dan was talking about. In particular, I'm thinking of the whole Tesco, Podpoint, Volkswagen. We've all seen them. Just advertising the whole time, spinning around, making you want to go VW next time you change your vehicle. Just brilliant. And Dan, your brain, I love spending time with you. There's so many different facets that I tap into every time I get to meet up with you. And if you do want to invite the EV audience down to Milton Keynes, I think it's like if Google met a car park company. There's these amazing lights everywhere, and it's a wonderful office, and everyone's got this real energy about them, which I love. But I want to understand more about cruise ships equals EV charging and parking. How did that conversation come about? And I appreciate that you spotted a gap in the market. What about you and Jiri? How did you unpack that when you first thought about it?
Well, I think when I first met Jiri, as I say, I was managing a cruise ship at the time that we'd taken into what we call dry dock, where you take an old ship in, you refit it, and then you resail it. And at the time, we were very antiquated with our IT systems. You'd sail on the first day, everybody would come down to the desk to book a tour or the spa or a dining, and you'd fill in a piece of paper and they'd hand it over. Very manual, very old. And then Jiri came on, and they basically revolutionized the whole of the IT. So they built us, basically, without the contactless, they built us kiosks that people could go to 24/7, book their tours, book their spa, book the dining. And then he also built us what was a web app at the time, because you couldn't have data on the ships back then because it was horrible internet. So he built us a web app that used an intranet, if I'm saying that right, so an internal system where people could actually use it on their phones without internet, but still be able to book everything. They were also one of the first companies to do when you're on a plane. So with TUI, they trialed when you actually buy something on a plane, yet you can still use your card. So that's how they kind of got into contactless, and that's where it all kind of started. With myself and Jiri, I was running bars, restaurants, galley, sanitation, entertainment. I was doing everything. So organising was kind of in my blood. That's kind of what I did and what I loved. And he'd talked to me over a few years, as I say, about 7-8 years we've known him, trying to get me to come across and do something, but it never really felt right at the right time. And then this kind of came up with Bright.Blue and the fact that we were being bought out, or the company was being bought out by private equity. And it was a really exciting time that, this was the start of something really special. And that's when I say, I was like, yeah, I can't really turn this down, because how many opportunities do you get to come and kind of manage and organize a company like that? And then when the EV thing came up, I mean, that's, we're all in a nice way, we call ourselves nerds. So we're all nerds, and we all love EV and we love tech. And so when that came up as an opportunity for something we could do with the tech, it was just a no-brainer. So yeah, it's been really exciting. But as I say, we had all these bits of tech already, and we have more tech already in the background that we're working on, and there's more kind of exciting projects that we like to do, because we're very lucky with our private equity that they love what we do and they're excited, and they kind of let us build what we want to, which means we can do some really exciting projects. And I know, Sarah, when we've had our meetings and we've talked through different things that can go on in car parks and new ideas, and how do we solve the problem of reserving EV spaces? How do we solve these other problems? And that's really exciting, because we love to find real world problems that need fixing. And I think, and that's what the company kind of does best. And again, like Sarah said, when it's the perfect partner, because the payment side of it is so complex, and the legislations, and it needs so much time and effort to make sure that's done right. And then the customer service side that the Paythru offer is it's second to none. So really, they were, again, a no-brainer as the partner for that, because that's not our expertise. That we don't want to be dealing with that part of it. We want to be able to build the cool things and think about what the next problem might be, and get these done. Whereas these guys can then look after that. They look after the customers, and that's just brilliant for us.
Yeah, we love it too. We absolutely love it. In the same way you described you guys swapping notes, we do it every day. I was saying to somebody just this morning, my phone from 7 a.m. till probably 11 at night is just a constant flurry of, have you seen this payment innovation coming forward? How can we get behind this to help our clients and our partners? And one thing that when I met Bright.Green and came to the office and was completely captivated by this unattended retail, which is very posh vending for listeners and people who haven't Googled imaged this yet. So it's this sort of large wall of cabinets, and within each cabinet is a high-end product. And I got into the nitty-gritty with Jason Bright, who we said earlier the company's named after. He was explaining how airports, in particular, airport clientele really appreciate these, because if you think about the square footage costs for running a store versus the square footage costs for managing an unattended retail unit, you can go and choose your favourite perfume or whiskey or baseball cap, whatever it is that you were hoping to get tax-free at the airport, via this nice user experience of sort of seeing it in a beautiful glass domain, opening the door after you've paid, and then taking your product. And then, of course, it's refilled instantaneously by an attendant who gets an alert to say that it needs refilling. Just genius. And I wondered if there was, with these unattended retails, taking that supermarket example, do you feel that people who own real estate, including car park management people, will they cotton on to the added benefits of this? How do we go beyond just payments and EV charging and parking and make it EV charging, payments and parking and user experience? How do we persuade them that they need to think about creating more technological advancements in their otherwise concrete spaces?
I think that's a really good question. You know, we speak to a lot of CPOs, we speak to a lot of manufacturers, and we hear the same thing over and over again. The margins are razor thin. The ROI is very long in some cases. The return on investment of building an EV charging site or building a car park and you know all these kind of things is they're very expensive to do, and it takes a long time to get the money back. So as a business, what we try and do is we build a business case. So every time we talk to somebody, we say, look, if you just go for a little kiosk, when we do small kind of very cheap and efficient kiosk, which is very simple, if you just want to cover legislation, but then we're going to be a cost center. So what we'd really like to do is offer you all these other options to become a profit center, because if you can, why not? We know that advertising works. It's been done everywhere in the world. Walk through any big city now and you'll see big screens absolutely everywhere. I was driving through Southampton the other day, and I think every 20, 30 meters, there's another 55-inch screen with somebody advertising on. There's huge amounts of money in it. So why not take advantage? The great thing about the EV industry and the EV ecosystem is that it's quite an affluent demographic at the moment. The cars are becoming cheaper. And you know, they are becoming more available to everybody, but at present they're not the cheapest thing to buy in the first place, and some of the charges for electricity are not the cheapest. So it's a market that the brands and the advertisers really like, because they know exactly who they're advertising to. It's a very targeted audience. So things like the advertising can be huge, as I said. And the nice crossover with Bright.Blue and Bright.Green is that we are going to be offering the unattended retail at EV sites as well. So we have in the pipeline, which is the first one will be a refitted shipping container, because we like to try and be sustainable as we can, you know, to be with the EV industry. And it will be a refitted shipping container that is just basically a drop-in unit that you can drop to anywhere. So hopefully allowing more companies to take land maybe slightly further out of towns, you know, in kind of remote areas, where we can actually do all the facilities you need. You can get a coffee, you can get drinks, you can get a cable if you've forgotten it. You know, there'll be, of course, advertising on there. We can even install hygiene facilities. You know, there can be toilets there as well. So we can really kind of make this a destination rather than just a charging point. So if someone has to be there for 20 minutes, that's great, because we know charging is getting faster. But you can go there, grab a quick coffee, use the toilet, and away you go. So hopefully that allows new spaces to pop up with new charging opportunities for everybody. And then in car parks and things, we've talked about, you know, you need a kiosk because you need to be compliant for the legislation. You have to have that contactlessness system. But you can actually do three things in one there. We can put in a big vending machine, or unattended retail, as we like to call them, and that can be your EV kiosk that controls your EV charge points. It can do your parking. So we can just do that through a third-party API, so a third-party connection to the parking management system. And we can do the advertising. So you buy one unit and there's actually 4 streams of revenue right there. But not only that, we do data and analytics. So one of the big things we're into as well is collecting GDPR compliant data. And that is very valuable in this world that we live in. You know, data is king. So why not, again, use that to advantage? So what we're trying to take all of this monetization that the internet has used for a long time and bring that into the brick and mortar and bring it into EV, to be able to offer more revenue, more profit to our friends in the EV industry and to ourselves, of course.
I mean, obviously, that's going to be a natural byproduct that actually you will grow as everybody else grows, and I think it's really important because we've got some challenges, haven't we? And I'm going to come on to the sort of compliance and customer kind of combination a little bit later, so don't let me forget that because it's a really important thing. But you speak of monetization and you speak of this deployment of the equipment and the idea, the proposition that you bring almost as a no-cost option and possibly even a revenue stream. And we've seen this in other areas. We've seen it in solar, solar going on top of roofs. It doesn't cost you anything and then you just pay less for your energy. It saves you money, that type of thing. There are propositions that are springing up that are using the power of just being in the right place at the right time, that connection with people. Is that where you see it going? And is that do you think you will be able to become more and more confident with that data analytics and that kind of understanding of footfall and appetite and the transition? Because we're only going one way, right? The ZEV mandate really helps companies like yours to plan with the amount of vehicles that are going to be on the road and therefore the amount of vehicles that will be charging at your hubs, as it were. Where do you see this proposition going?
I think as a business, what we'd love to do at the moment, we're still quite small. We're a kind of a small fun company. I think we will end up scaling quite quickly, and we hope, as all businesses do. I think our goal would absolutely, to be like you said, is to just offer this for free, where we can say, look, we can install it, you can have the hardware, we will take X amount of cut from the advertising revenue, so it covers legislation, it doesn't cost anybody anything, and they will make additional revenues on it. That as a long-term plan, I think, is where we'd like to be as a business. But even where we are at the moment, and not to get too much into the commercials and things, if you say lease the equipment, you can be instantly profitable. So there isn't actually that big a risk for people to do it, and you have to cover the legislation. And that's really where we've looked at this and thought, well, can we offer something that is basically, I like using the word a no-brainer, because you've got to cover the legislation. You have to put the contactless in November. Any brand new site over 8 kilowatt, you have to have contactless payment, which is right. I do believe that the legislation that they've put in is going to help the EV industry, make it easier, make it more simple. And then you have a year to retrofit to all of the sites that are already in place. So everybody's unfortunately got this new cost. There's a new cost for everybody. There's monthly fees. There are lots of other solutions out there. I'm not saying that we're the only one, but I think what we're trying to be is the only one that's not going to cost you money. So if you do the lease side of it, and we say, okay, yeah, if the location's right, because advertising is all about location, and then size of screen. We have one in the office at the moment. It's a 75-inch double-sided kiosk, which is just a behemoth, but in the right place can be incredibly profitable. So we always look at what sites people have, say, yeah, this site's amazing, it's actually next to a road, we can put that in, there's no legislation or there's no problems about the advertising. And then, as I say, on the lease side of the deal that we do with the business case, it's then instantly profitable. So it's one of the only solutions I think that's out there that can do that. But it is new to people, and I think that's where we kind of we end up we're in a lot of conversations, and I say we've got a few installed out there. We've got a few more going out next week. There's lots of people installing, and I think as we get closer to November and people have to decide which way they go, I think we will see a huge increase. AFIR, which is the European legislation about the EV, they've slightly different to the UK legislation. But we have a lot of partners in Europe as well looking for different solutions. So we even have a QR code solution. So it states that you can use a dynamic QR code. You can't use a static QR code anymore because of the risks of somebody sticking a QR code over the proper QR code, and it takes you to some dodgy websites where you put your money in and you never see it again. So we have a little product where we're going to have a dynamic QR code generator that can be very efficiently attached to an AC charger. But again, we're always trying to look at, is there a better way to do it? Is there different ways, and trying to have a suite of tools that will suit everybody. So then we can just offer the whole solution end to end. Where I see the business going, I think if we're here to complement the industry, we're not here to manage, sites. We're not here to do the charging. But if we can complement the industry, make it more profitable, make it better, it can only grow and grow. So it kind of, like I said before, win-win for everyone.
Yeah, exactly that, and it does really sound like a win-win. When we're talking about kind of communicating on the benefit of electric vehicles over ICE vehicles, you often talk about the best way to access that immediate saving or reduce that cost immediately is to go leasing. So you lease it, and because then you're only paying per month for the use of that thing, and then the savings, or in terms of revenue from your perspective, that you make then cover the cost of the actual difference in lease cost or whatever it is. I'm curious though, do we think in general compliance that's driving unusually customer experience? Because what we don't often see is compliance. I'm not a very compliant person. Shh, don't tell anybody. But I tend not to like rules and regulations because they bore the thing out of me. And but here we've got an experience where the compliance, the legislation is driving a positive customer experience. Is it going far enough in your view? And is there more that can be done in that space to drive the customer experience?
I think it's very good. I think what's been decided for the November launch makes a lot of sense. Is there more? I'm sure there is definitely more that can be done. But from a payments point of view, from a customer experience point of view, having 20 apps on your phone, none of us like. Trying to figure out which one's the best one to use. Do you have connection on your phone when you get to the charge points? If you're in an underground car park or a charge point in the middle of nowhere, if you don't have data on your phone, you can't start the charge. So the contactless, I think, is a really big step in the right direction, because it's making it no different from a gas station, a petrol station. And I think that's the important thing. It needs to be a very similar experience that everyone's used to. That okay, it might be a little bit longer because you have to wait because of the charge, but if you can get a coffee and you can get a drink and you can use the toilets and stuff, I think that then becomes a very similar experience. And as we don't like change, right? Nobody loves change, do they? So we're creatures of habit, and popping into the petrol station and filling up and just swiping your card and off you go. It's simple, and I think the legislation is definitely pushing it that way. And that makes sense. And then you have to show all the prices. The prices have to be very transparent, and you have to see the price before you charge, which wasn't there before, which is crazy, really, when you think about it, that you didn't have to show anybody how much it was going to cost them before they started. So that will absolutely help as well, because the better the transparency, the better it is. And I think there will be changes to the legislation as the years go on, and we learn more and we get better at this. But anything that I think can make it a quicker, more efficient, and more usual, experience that we're all used to, I think is only a good thing.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think it's good that you, as somebody that is creating a solution in this space, feels one that the compliance and the legislation is bringing good customer experience, and that you can see that in the future, because customer experience has got to be everything, really. Saz?
I was just thinking, as you guys chatted together there, about whether there is more to be done. And I do foresee a trend where, just because the legislation says it's 8 kilowatts and above, so that does exclude a significant, at the moment that's about 35,000 known AC chargers already deployed in various public locations and car parks and leisure centres and you name it. And I think they will be doing their commercial modelling. And at the moment, that commercial model centres around utilization. So the answer is always the same. We will not be deploying contactless technology in that location because the utilization is too low. And I say back to them, your utilization is low because people cannot access your chargers. They probably arrive and then leave because they can't use them unless you're a member. And that's what this legislation was supposed to eradicate. But it was changed from 7.1 kilowatts to 8 kilowatts. So my prediction is that those will be left behind. They'll either be ripped and replaced for a higher powered unit, in which case great cost and expense, and why not make it more usable for the driver in that case by installing something like this. But at the same time, we have to be persuasive in doing those numbers in a hypothetical way. So saying, well, look, if you were able to offer contactless, this is what it would cost you to run that. But look how much more utilization you'd get as a result. And that's where those commercial models become super strong. And for me, I'm just so grateful that somebody like you and the team are thinking about it with such a holistic lens. You've got the advertising, got the commercial modeling, the leasing opportunity, the sort of assurances of the hardware and the design and the manufacturer process that goes behind it. You know, I do not waste my time. And as soon as I heard about your solution, I thought, that's got to be good. That's a good egg. That's a great place to be. And as for your global expansion, I think that's a no-brainer. Just look at how busy Jury is right now, having to travel around Europe and America, and the shows that you guys are doing next year. And Paythru will also be European and USA based. Now, speaking of shows, I did just send a message to Paul to say, did you see these guys at the London EV show? And I think you might be going to Move 2024 as well. So this all sounds great, but when you see it, it's even better. So tell us about where you guys are going to be popping up, where we can come and experience this.
This is actually something we spoke about yesterday. As you mentioned, Jury is jet setting around the world at the moment. He's in France today. He's in Germany next week, and then over in the States the week after, all on business meetings. So it's a really, really exciting time for us. So we have a list of shows that we've shortlisted that we're looking at, but we haven't confirmed 100% which ones we're doing as yet. We were over at the NRF in New York a couple of months ago, which was a big retail foundation, which was incredible. We did the EV show, and obviously with our Bright.Blue side as well, we try and do some that obviously kind of join the two together, because that's what we're trying to do, of course, with the businesses. And then there's some amazing EV ones that are shortlisted this year. So we'll have to give you an update on that one of where we're going to be. But as I say, we have our showroom and our research and development. So if anybody is interested in the tech or wants to come and have a play with it or charge the car outside the front, you know, it's always available for people to come. And we're always very welcoming for anyone who wants to come in and say hello.
Well, Dan, listen, I am going to be there because I only live in Bedford.
Oh,
so I'm not very far away. I'm quite regularly in Milton Keynes. So I will definitely be taking you up on that, because I think anything that, one of the things that frustrates the heck out of me is, I mean, okay, sometimes parking you can plug in and you can park for free. Not very often, but occasionally, right? So you plug in and that's but the oftentimes situation that happens is you plug in, you pay for that, then you go and find the vending outlet for the parking and you have to pay for that. Anything that brings those two things together, for me, absolutely heaven sent. Makes a really good thing. What I'm curious about though, because obviously my world is fleet and vans. You may not know this, but I'm a big lover of vans. I love vans. I cannot lie. And the reality is that one of your solutions I've seen, I think, is going to be quite big for fleet, because you've already partnered with Ibis Hotels. And I was reading the press release about that. And what many people may not realise is a lot of vans park in Ibis, Premier Inn, Travelodge, other hotels are available, right? But they pull up and they park overnight. One of the big challenges for vans is, of course, charging. And if the vans are travelling to a long way away and working overnight, or working through the day and then staying overnight, where do they charge? How do they charge? This surely provides an amazing solution, doesn't it?
Yeah, so we've been in some very interesting conversations on just this kind of thing, because there are a lot of fleets out there. There's a lot of fleet hubs. There's a lot of parking. So it absolutely gives a great opportunity for that. We've been discussing with Jason and Jury an elite charging system that we will be launching quite soon, where if you have two fleets that would like to charge, well, if you'd like to pay for a little bit more with some dynamic load balancing, we can charge your cars faster or your vans faster than your competitor.
I love it.
really
Competitive charging.
That way round. That's really interesting, because usually it's if you subscribe, you can get cheaper kilowatt hour charging. You're like, no, if you want premium service, we can offer it to you. That's brilliant. It's clever.
Yeah, because convenience
is
huge for some people, right? Some companies will pay for the convenience for speed. So that's a really interesting thing that Jerry and Jason have been coming up recently in a lot of the meetings, which is cool. Fleet, and again, we've looked at gantry charging, and again, because the kiosk, it can be wall mounted, it can be floor mounted, and it works because of the OCPP, because of the open protocol. It works on any hardware. It's completely hardware agnostic, completely software agnostic. So for fleets, I think there's a big opportunity, especially as even in our place, there's a guy now in his Amazon van that comes and parks every night at our test site, which is great because it's being used, and overnight, I think that's going to be a big thing because where do you park the van overnight? And like you say, as well as the issues of what we tried to do as well, because the legislation doesn't ask for. So you don't have to have an app. That's what it says. That the new law is you have to be able to do it without an app. You have to be able to do it without us knowing who you are, which is great. But maybe you want to see how your charging is doing when you're away. So especially if you're charging overnight, if all of a sudden it stops midnight for whatever reason, if you have a 200-mile journey to do in the morning and you come back to your car and it's not working, then that's a nightmare. So we have built basically a web portal. So when you're charging, you can either give us your phone number if you'd like to. If you don't have to, you just scan the QR code that's on the screen and you'll get a mirror image of what's on the kiosk. So you'll see your charging session and it's live, and you can just then take that away with you. So again, you don't have to have an app. You just open up your Google or Safari or whatever it's going to be, and you can see live what's going on. If then there's a problem with the charging, something happens, the power goes down, these things unfortunately do happen, we will notify you, and that will be either by text or by notification through the web portal. So again, trying to make sure that the customer experience is as good as if you had an app, if you don't have an app.
Yeah. No, I think that's really important. What's clear to me in my mind is that you've brought your experience of cruise ships where customer service is is really important, right? If you've got grumpy people stuck on a boat, and they're all going round and round in circles, going, rah, 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 it's not a good place to be, right? So that we want people happy. And we'll need to sit down and talk about how you can build out hubs for overnight fleet charging and vans and stuff, and give them scooters to go home on and all of those kind of good things, or bikes or whatever it might be. I mean, there's so many options, right? But that's what I love about problem solvers, people that have come to the market with an exciting idea and are just executing. I think one important thing for me, though, and let's give a little bit of something back in terms of the relationship that we have here on this podcast, is that between Bright.Green and Paythru, what was it that, because you're exciting, you're innovative, you're dealing with customer service, you're making things happen. How important is the relationship with Paythru, and kind of what gave you the confidence to go with them as opposed to somebody else? I know it sounds like a shameless advert, but I'm actually genuinely interested. And Sarah didn't ask it, and she didn't ask
No, I did not. I was about to say,
curious.
I didn't do this. But I'm curious too.
I think, as I say, it's the one part of our ecosystem that we are not experts in. And I think from the very first meeting we had with Keith and Sarah, we completely thought that they were experts. And I think that with us, we've known each other for a while. There's lots of us that come from the TUI background, the holiday company, which is who we all worked for. And I think that's where our customer service side comes from, because you're absolutely right when you said, it's all about giving a customer experience that they want to come back and experience again. And that's all it really is in a nutshell. And when we spoke to Paythru and we understood what they did, and they're just nice, friendly people as well. And that's we want to work with people that we like. We want to work with friends, because they are friends now. It's not a company we work with. They're our friends, and that's what we try and do. And they are experts in what they do, and they're so hassle free, which is again from our side what we need. We need somebody who will look after that part of what we want to offer to everybody, and just be so easy to work with and easy to deal with, And I think that's why we are so happy that we've been able to partner together and make this all go forward, because we were looking around for a while, and we spoke to a few different people, but really Paythru were our favourites by a long way.
Oh, thank
Which is
you.
great news. It is super cool when that whole thing comes together in the way that it is. And I know that Sarah's got an important announcement. So before we get to the end of chatting together, because it's been great. And Dan, we haven't really got to know you. We'd like to ask really personal questions about
we
you.
do.
Another time.
Previous episodes,
Saz.
it's either been Paul and I welling up in tears, or it's the guest welling up in tears, but all of us have just been grinning throughout this whole thing, because this is what happens when you have agnostic companies who care. They'd want to help as many people as possible through their agnosticism, and that's what we both, Paythru and Bright.Green, definitely do. And on our secret chat that Paul and I have, I said, honestly, Dan is amazing. He is like this all the time. I want to know how he copes. This 100% energy is a real reflection of who you are and the passion that we convey. And much like the EV Cafe, we are very collaborative. And we will be participating. Paul and I are doing one with Paythru sponsoring, and Paul guest speaking alongside me with Green Fleet at the LCV, so the commercial vehicles webinar. We'll be taking the stage together, and that's in I think September. But in August, Dan, Bright.Green and Paythru will be buddying up alongside friends KiboCharge, who do some of the AC charging across your estate. Other chargers are deployed. So I think we can unpack a lot of what we've talked about here on that webinar. We'll be doing a little video together, and we'll be going into the details about why this technology is applicable to fleet and to the wider EV charging estate. And so often we have this problem of sort of selling the future today. So helping people to understand what's coming down the track and what they need to be prepared for, whilst there's a very understandable head in sand approach, sort of doing as much as you can with what you've got available today. So yeah, I'm full of joy for that. We'll certainly be investigating it soon. So I think that's in August, isn't it, Dan? Something like that. Yeah, we're going to be filming it probably at your Google HQ. I reckon Paul should do a little cameo. Hiya! As part of the video, as he's so close. No, but it really has been a pleasure. And as Paul says, my only regret is seeing the clock whistle away all the time and not get a chance to get to know you better. But our paths will cross many, many times with the audience, I'm sure. So look out for them at shows.
But Dan, one thing that's important is that we give everybody a magic wand at the end of every session, mostly, if they're good, and you've been good, so you can have a magic wand. If you had a magic wand and you were able to make a change to our industry that would make it better in general, better for customers, and better for yourselves, what do you think you would wish for?
Oh, that's putting me on the spot.
Great question. Yeah, I like that.
I think
Mars bars.
Yeah.
Mars bars have come up an extraordinary amount, actually.
We're not sponsored by them, I promise. We're not. We do advertise them, but we're not sponsored.
Other chocolate bars are available.
I think as an EV driver, and which I love, and I would never go back, and I love my car. I think the biggest thing that I have an issue is the cost of fast charging. You know, I will charge at home because it's such a big difference, but it's not necessarily the most convenient. You know, I could charge here at work, that's fine, but going anywhere else in the country, and you know, if you have to charge, it's now as expensive as petrol. You know, and that's really not helping us as an industry. The fact that people want to do it because it's the right choice, it's sustainable, it is the right thing to do, but I don't think the cost of fast charging at the moment is helping us in any way. And I don't know how that changes, you know, because that's a big thing. Do the energy companies
magic wand?
Is it? Well, exactly, a magic wand. But if fast charging was available at a much more reasonable cost, I think that would hugely help the industry. Because it's being charged more to fill my electric car than it would be to charge a petrol car. It doesn't feel right.
Yeah. But it feels, Dan, like this is hand in glove with your solution, because if revenue streams are tricky. So if we look at, there's a few let's call them well-known charge point operators that have combined their operation with, like shops, and they host the shop, they host the coffee, they host everything, and people can go there almost for an experience. They're going to ride a power bike, go to the gym, do whatever. But they seem to be all independent cost centers. But what you're bringing is a way of directly attributing the revenue that is generated to that charge. Exactly that. I'm here because I'm charging. I plug in, I press a button, and I dab my card, and away I go. If people can kind of confidently line those two things together, maybe then they can say, okay, well, I've got this extra revenue stream, so I might get an extra 10 pence per kilowatt hour that I'm earning because of this extra revenue. Maybe I'll drop my charge by 7 pence. They still take some extra revenue, but there is an altruism about our industry, isn't there? A little bit. A little bit of willing to kind of go, okay, well, I'm going to move forward a little bit. I could move forward a lot, but if I'm moving forward a lot, it's at somebody else's expense. Sounds like a good solution, Dan. I think that's a clever wish. I think if your wish is granted, you might be a part of it. The solution, that is.
He definitely will. You guys will be, yeah, for sure. And I love your screens, because you talked earlier about your dynamic QR code that can appear on screen, and you're advertising on these screens that are so huge. That screen you talked about earlier, the behemoth that you said, is so massive that it only just clears the ceiling in this office. I do so enjoy seeing it. And imagine if that suddenly flashed up and knew you. It knew who you were. These things have often got cameras in as well. And it says, oh, hi, we know that you love, ready, Mars bars, here's 10 pence off, so there may be other ways to reduce your outgoings with something intelligent using data pooling. So that makes my life cheaper, because I was going to buy that sandwich or Mars bar anyway, and because I'm a loyal EV charging customer who utilizes your kiosk system, you are then able to give me and provide me with discount codes for stuff that I was going to buy anyway. That might be a nice way of doing it. So I appreciate EV is expensive.
I think the kind of the future of us as well, and with Jason and Jiri at the helm, there's some really exciting things in the pipeline as well. So there's I'm sure we can maybe come back on in a couple of months and hopefully give you some updates of some stuff I can't talk about. But with the stuff I can, I mean, we do have our own app coming out, but it's an experiential app. So it's not only going to help you design the route to the best chargers or the safest chargers, the chargers that most suit you as a user, an individual user, not just a generic user, whether you need certain facilities, whether you like to shop at certain shops, whether you like certain coffee, it will build you this whole thing. We'll then be able to suggest things when you're there, like you've just said, that suit you. So we really want to get it down to the individual consumer and be able to make their life better, easier, and just better. So that's coming fairly soon, actually. So the guys in America at our Secret Lab is our private equity company, and they have a team of software engineers that have been building us something really special. So that will be coming out soon as well, which I'm sure will be showing Paythru very soon to get them included into it as well for all of our payment side of things. So as soon as it's ready to go.
Very good.
So that's exciting. And then the other one we are looking at, which again is to try and give that Tesla level experience. Because when you plug your Tesla in, they know who you are, and things happen on the screen inside the car. So we've been looking at ways that we could possibly do things like that as well. So always looking at new things that might help, might assist, might make it all a little better.
Wow, the Internet of Things and how we're all connected. I still get very irritated by, walking in, and I'm sorry, we're going to trigger something, when you walk in and Alexa's got on the screen something you've been talking about while you've been out, or you go on to Google and then there's an advert, or you go on to Instagram. It all just kind of drops in. I'm looking for a new car at the moment, and then suddenly I go onto Instagram, and in my feed, the cars that I'm looking at, not on my phone, on a computer, are appearing in my feed. I mean, Big Brother is watching. But hey, listen, if we can use it to our advantage, and if we can speed the acceleration of the transition to zero emission transport, then I am all for it. This has been really exciting today, really interesting. And I will come over to Milton Keynes. I make that commitment here and now. and hopefully by the time this comes out, I will have had the full Bright.Green experience. And I will tap something and inevitably go and buy a Mars bar because that's now in my head. But guys, this has been really great. So the final thoughts, just give me a quick snapshot and then let's let our lovely listening public go on their merry way. But final thoughts from you, Dan.
No, just thank you ever so much for inviting us on. We're super excited to be in the industry and be part of the community, and can't wait to see where it goes.
Fantastic. Taz?
Yeah, likewise. And seeing where it goes is one thing, but driving it in that direction is another. And I think with these fantastic ideas taken from global markets, multiple experienced people on the team, I think we are, in fact, the ones to watch.
And I feel uniquely blessed because I've been able to watch two companies in this podcast that have passion and verve and a real engagement with solving problems of charging, which is close to my heart. We're about to embark, we may actually be embarking when this comes out, on the Green Fleet EV Rally of Great Britain, and we will be traipsing from, we'll be beginning, up near Birmingham, and then up to Carlisle and across into Scotland and all the way down, and then ended up in Exeter and then back up to Chester. I mean, we are properly going around the houses, let me tell you, nearly 1,500 miles. And I suspect that charging will still give us a bit of stress, is reality, from time to time. And I look forward to the day where solutions like Bright.Green and with Paythru's support are making it seamless and easy and just better. Thanks ever so much, Dan. Thank you for all your thoughts and ideas and dreams and visions, and that of Yuri and the team as well. I'm really excited. So people do check out that little video. The link is in the comments if you didn't watch it on YouTube, but you are listening on the podcast channels like Spotify and Apple and all those good things. Do check back to evcafe.org for many other conversations just like this one, because it's been a real joy, and we always learn exciting and wonderful, innovative and insightful things. And thank you for listening, everybody. And thank you guys for participating and sharing some really cool stuff. And it just means have a great day, everybody. Thanks again for listening.
Thanks, Paul. Bye.